Let us pray. We pray, O God, for wisdom tonight as we gather. May we focus more on the things we hold in common and work together for the greater good of the citizens of Mitchell. Bless us with insight, compassion, and courage to carry out the necessary decisions and actions required for the ongoing leadership and service of our positions. Grant us with a spirit of unity and sacrifice for the greater good. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call.
Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. Here. McCardle. Here. Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Sharp. Here. Smith.
Here. We have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of formal agenda items. I will start out by saying we're going to pull item K out, which is the Mitchell Main Street Beyond temporary street and parking closure for consumption permit for the first Fridays. As we have somebody from the public that wants to speak to that one. Anything else you wish to pull out?
I don't want to pull anything out, but I was just wondering, Mayor or whoever wants to answer on the golf carts. Was there a technicality that was with that?
There was. We had a technicality. The golf course did not want to have wooden seats, but only placed plywood in there and did not state other wood. So there's some ambiguities in the bids. So what we're going to do is reject all bids, reset a bid date, and open them again.
What was your initial thought on the numbers that we did get for bids?
I think we were well within our budget. Mr. Gennari, can you speak to that?
Yeah, the numbers that came in were lower than what we had anticipated. So they were worked really well. Hopefully, when we rebid it, comes in the same.
There's no reason to think they won't be any different, is there?
Do you anticipate the same people that submitted bids the first time to submit them the second time, or is it a game changer?
I think there's one that probably won't.
They're going to tighten up the specification.
Yeah.
So that they get exactly what they're looking for, and that way there won't be any ambiguities in the bid process this time.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of Mr. Gennari? Okay, thank you.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Charks, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address any of these other than K? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen. Sharp.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers. Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item K, Mitchell Main Street Beyond temporary street closure and parking closure and consumption permit request for 2020 First Fridays events, May 2021 through September 2021. Mr. Croce.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, Kyle Croce, a Public Works Director. So this is a reoccurring request. Mitchell Main Street and Beyond comes before the council to request the First Friday events. In the traffic section, I believe we put together the request for approval, and it looks like it's for Fridays, First Friday for May through September, which is May 7th, June 4th, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd. And the location for the closure request is Main Street from 5th to 7th, not including those intersections, but it does include the parking lot, the Corn Palace Plaza parking lot next to the stage back there. The map shows other places for parking, and we had no issue with this. I believe it went through public safety as well for the consumption permit, so staff recommends approval. I believe representatives from Mitchell Main Street and Beyond are here for any questions, and possibly some other business owners.
Thank you. Mr. Coster, did you have anything to add? Okay.
Hi, I'm Kiki Leiferman, owner of the Back 40. Hi, everyone. So this year, I am requesting that the council not have the Mitchell Main Street and beyond closed in front of the Back 40. I've had some issues for the last 2 years, including during COVID. We are losing money at the Back 40, a large amount, not a little bit. In 2019, we lost 35% each first Friday. 2020, the same. Now through COVID, all of this. I did meet with the board. I asked them not to have that, close my street down during COVID, and they still wanted to do that. I've had several, led this last year, twice, my street was closed with nothing on it during the event. At this time, I don't wish to lose any more money. I have asked to meet with the board a second time, and I've been denied that, even though I am a Mitchell Main Street member. So at this time, I'd like to ask the city council to either move that onto the plaza, as their event has, I guess, lesser people. It doesn't have as many people, or to move it north, where those businesses close at 5 o'clock. But for me, I am directly and financially affected by that very deeply. And I've been working with them for quite a bit, but I just haven't had any success to be more involved than other members in the first Fridays. I've asked to be more involved with it and to be directly in there, not just making suggestions, because I am financially completely affected. I have no other parking lot. That is strictly my only entrance. And I have not been allowed to do that. So at this time, and because I was not able to meet with them a second time after COVID, I would like them to move that elsewhere. I cannot lose any more money. It's been, during COVID, we experienced, even with COVID numbers, I averaged the 3 Fridays before the first Friday, and I was still at a 30% loss, even during the COVID stuff. So I want to make sure that I can make money and have the ability to do that. I feel at this time their numbers are down, and should that event make, or how should I say this, have bigger numbers, it could return to closing that street again. But at this time, I've just had a lot of issues, and I have not had any success with that. So I would like to ask that that not be closed in front of mine, and that be open so that I can still make money and have patrons come in.
So you'd like to see Main Street remain open from 5th to 6th?
Yes, please.
Kiki, are you attributing this to parking, or what do you?
3 things. 1, parking. 2, there have been several events that nothing's been put in front of me. They just closed the street. And then there have been several events where they just had, like one time they had just a wiffle ball game with business owners and no one was there. So it really isn't making me any money. I'm actually losing money on it. And that's been for 2 years now. The first year I came in, Jen Johnston was the Mitchell Main Street director, and it was very busy and very fruitful, and it worked. Since that last summer then for her, I really have been at a losing end in a big way, not just a little way. And now that we've had COVID and everything else, I just can't maintain that loss anymore. So.
Other questions?
Well, I guess, I was there when you were there, so I'm
Yeah.
just kind of thinking through this as you're talking. I'm not sure that this last year is a fair assessment of whether or not the first Fridays is.
No, but the last 2 years is, and those are my numbers. They're at a loss for both.
So, when you talk to the scoreboard, they say that their numbers are the best. I'm surprised that you're seeing a loss because that's one of
The
the
scoreboard has
people eat there.
three staff and a very small footprint. I have a huge footprint. I'm 3/4 of a block long. They have a parking lot in the back that has access for their other customers that come in. I do not.
I have a question. When you asked to meet with the board, Main Street, Mitchell Main Street and Beyond
Yes.
board, and they went.
No,
invite you.
Mrs.
Why?
Buchelman was the director at the time, and I received a letter from her stating that I could not meet with them.
They give you any reason?
They did not, their agenda was too full. They did not have time. That was the reasoning.
I mean, is there anyone from Mitchell Main Street that wants to speak to this?
Hello, I'm Dan Buchelman with Mitchell Main Street and Beyond. I have Ashley, our director, up here as well for any specific questions. So as you know, this application for our standard First Fridays event. It's been hosted since 2015. Am I correct on those details? With it was Downtown Thursdays became First Fridays throughout the years. Average attendance at that event has been 1,000 or more throughout the years. Now, last year was certainly a down attendance year. Our board met extensively and talked about the event to try to determine if we should even continue with it, and tried some different things. And so we had the Cruising Main event for our first one last year, and we had 3 food trucks that sold out of food during that event. So that's important to know. We moved on to some closed street events, and we did certainly as a board meet with Mrs. Leiferman about her business and her concerns about having the street closed. We did at that board meeting tell her that if there was events where we could leave the street open, that we would do that. If we weren't going to use the space, we would make sure the street would be open from 5th to 6th. And we did attempt to do that. We switched one event completely to that. It was a little bit of confusion for street department to have an application that changes the dynamics of what spaces are closed, and also sort of confusing to the public to have an event that changes the dynamics of where they can go, where they can park, and what they can do. An event that was specifically mentioned with the wiffle ball game that we played was certainly meant to draw a little bit bigger crowds, but I could bring you people who sat on the deck of the back 40 and had beers during that event. A good friend of mine, Corey Cummings, was there, and his wife, and they certainly had several beers at that event. So other than that, we're looking forward to having a booming year this year. There's been a tremendous amount of attention paid to what kind of events we're going to have. One of the ones I'm super excited about is the Garden Home Show that'll happen early in June, June 4th. That's expected to have the National Guard band. They're bringing bounce houses. We're going to have a home show, and I've talked to a bunch of home builders in the region and people in renovations and repair and landscaping, and lots of interest in doing something. So being restricted to 6th to 7th would leave us pretty tight on space based on the initial information that's been given to us. We were asked last year for Ms. Leiferman to come back to the board. The board as a group did deny that request because the discussion had been made, the decisions had been made. We have reached out numerous times. I myself stopped by the back 45 different times. Ashley's sent emails as well. And she's invited each month to our promotions committee meeting, which plans these events to try to figure out what we can do. She's just not been able to attend those events, I assume. Any questions that I can address for you?
Have you looked at another location besides 6th and 5th Street, Main there? Did you look anywhere else around here where you could accommodate her, but you can still have your...
Sure. You know, as she mentioned, going north of 7th gets complicated because you have a lot of people that are going to have to cross 7th. And so then you end up shutting down 7th, which is a much more heavy traffic thoroughfare than, say, 6th and Main is, or that kind of thing. We keep 5th open. If we move to the south, we end up with the same issue, that we have to either shut down intersections at 5th, or we got to go way to the south, and that takes us away from the benefits of having convenient public restrooms available at the Corn Palace, having water supply, having all the safety necessary that's available by being close to the Corn Palace. Many communities have events similar to this and do shut down roadways for them, and it's because the businesses value having customers in that region. Again, as was mentioned, the scoreboard has sent us an email saying that he's busy. He appreciates these events and runs a very similar types of business. In addition, we've had some communication from Mitchell Habitat for Humanity that's been involved for many years and is very appreciative of these kinds of events. And let's see, there's one more here. Oh, Marty from Cruising for a Cause, who's part of the car show last year. It was our first year doing a car show. We didn't know how it'd go, so it was less attended than we expected. That might be COVID, and that might be our lack of experience with a car show. But again, we've had people reaching out to us saying, we want a car show this year. They're excited about it. So we just tried a bunch of new things and hope to keep expanding it.
Have the restaurant owners been advised of the food trucks? And you said the food trucks sold out. I wonder if the restaurants were equally busy.
You know, again, I think the main restaurants that heavily are affected are the depot, the scoreboard, and the back 40. And I met with Stephanie Vaughn at the depot just a couple of weeks ago.
Their road isn't closed. It's
But-
all the way down to the other end of Main Street. They're not affected at all.
Let him finish.
I did meet
You
with
can
Stephanie.
come back after he's done.
Yeah, certainly. And Stephanie was so happy with the events that we did last year that she actually became a member of our board. She's coming on next month. So that's worked out well. The scoreboards mentioned it worked out well for them. Cornerstone 2 across the street, which is a food vendor, but ice cream, a little different style. They sold pies and ice cream and said they had a great year. They were very happy with the events last year.
Ms. Leiferman.
So I have not gone to their planning meetings because Mrs. Buchelman told me that it was open for suggestions for everyone. I have begged them to be a larger part of the planning for First Fridays, as I and the scoreboard are the only members directly financially affected. Habitat for Humanity isn't on that street. Depot isn't closed. I'm closed. I'm directly financially affected by their event failing. And this isn't just during COVID. Also, I had them stop by the restaurant. I tried to meet with the board because I had issues with Ms. Buchelman on a professional level. I certainly did not think her husband being on the board, stopping by my restaurant at 6 p.m. during our high time to come and talk to me about what was going on was a total conflict of interest and unprofessional. I was not going to have that conversation with him. That was inappropriate. I've experienced 25 to 35% loss, not just during COVID. I've met with them and asked them not to have that during COVID, just have it on the plaza, have the event, I'll still support you. You know, the scoreboard is connected to the plaza. They still can do all the liquor and their food and all that because they're connected right there. But I cannot keep losing this money. This is a major amount of money for me. And they continue to just not want to meet with me, not want me to be involved. I think I should have major involvement. It directly financially affects me, and I don't think Mitchell Main Street understands. I put up with this for years and years and years, and I was a part of it. I've helped them find bands. I have paid for some of the band, and they've paid for some of the band, so the back 40 could be in it. I've been a huge supporter of theirs until recently. When they stopped communicating with me, I asked them through COVID, please don't close my street, help me out. During the wiffle ball thing, I don't even know what he's talking about. I had no one in my restaurant come in besides Corey and his wife after that. Not to mention that the wiffle ball thing was about business owners playing wiffle ball. Aren't I a business owner? Shouldn't I have been invited to that, to play? Shouldn't I have been in that? Not a word, nothing to me. So those are the things that I'm experiencing, both through communication. I have tried. This is all written for me. It's not hearsay. I have the emails. I have all the stuff from them collected. And I have tried everything I can to work with them, and it just isn't working, and I'm still experiencing loss. There really isn't any reason they can't go north. Those businesses close at 5 o'clock, and they are not affected by that whatsoever. It's not that I don't support anything going on in Main Street. It isn't that at all. I'm a business there. But when I have a proven track record of losing money for 2 years in a row, it's time to stick up for my business and say I can't do it no more. Use the plaza. Should your event become larger again and your numbers are larger, yes, I entertain that closing again in front of me. But right now, it's not happening. And I'm the only one financially suffering because of it.
Okay, any questions?
I'm just listening to what you're saying, Kiki. So you're saying if there was a larger crowd, then you're in favor of having that street blocked off, right?
If your events pick up, I support that, but not this summer. I cannot continue to lose money through COVID and all of this. I can't do this anymore. And so I'm asking you guys to use the plaza. That's what it was built for. They have a band shell, the food trucks. That was another addition. So they have 4 or 5 food trucks that, sell out? Hello? I'm a restaurant right there. Hello? Anyone think about you're directly in competition with the Mitchell Main Street member? I've tried really hard to say, yeah, okay, I get it. Then there's another one, then there's another one, then there's another one. At what point are you hurting your members? I'm the only restaurant, full-size restaurant there. I mean, my thumbprint is huge. And now we have 4 to 5 food trucks. I mean, I keep talking and it just goes on deaf ears. So I cannot do it.
If we moved it up to where it was open in front of your place,
That would be
but closed
awesome.
in front of the scoreboard, is that an issue?
No,
Something
nope,
for you to
just
consider.
so it's open so my customers can get in. Many of my customers will not cross over, will not do that, especially if the road is closed and there's nothing there. They think there's something that's going to happen. We can't go in there, something's going on. So then I lose all that business that night.
Mr. Coster, does that create, or Mr. Croce, whoever wants to speak to, does that create any hardship for you?
Just to have that consideration, I think we would have to open 6th Street so people could go through. It'd be very difficult to have them turn around without a side street there. So
Okay.
we'd have to open 6th Street and then they could get out.
Well, hey, Kyle, U-turns are legal.
I was going to say that, and then I decided
So I don't know if we really need to have 6 open.
Hello, Ashley, new director of Mitchell Main Street and Beyond. And I don't know if you can hear me good.
there you
Better?
Better.
I do want to just on my behalf, since I'm new, I did try to reach out to Kiki just to establish that I am new to the position and kind of get a little background. So, and that did not happen. She did not want to meet just because of the situation. So that's her choice. But yes, we are hoping to utilize both blocks. So we're kind of hoping to do more like vendor, kids activities on one section, and then in front of her building and down that way, we'd like to do like the car shows, the bigger things where obviously it's a traffic issue. And I feel like opening up 6th Street, we're going to have a lot of safety issues when we have, children running around. And I know that's, yes, there's roads all over, but you open up a smaller section of road, and I think that we're going to have some trouble that way as well, and not allowing enough spanning out.
Do you guys need the parking lot there on 5th, the corner of 5th and Main? Do you use that?
No.
It's open.
That
So
one's
like if
for
we close
parking.
that would be open for parking?
Yes,
It is
that's open for parking.
That's
So
what the blue is. The blue are
Yeah.
parking areas that remain open.
we plan to leave that open so that there's plenty of parking there that people can walk across the street to utilize downtown for in front of, for Kiki's to get into the back 40 or scoreboard, wherever.
So according to your schedule here, May 7th is the only day you're showing that you're going to have a car show. Is that right?
That's the tentative, May 7th, possibly August too. Those were kind of the 2 months that are a little more appropriate for that.
Okay,
after
but right
talking-
now you have a car show set up for May 7th.
That's the goal, yeah. And those are tentative.
So you don't, it's a goal, you don't have it set up yet.
Right. I guess we don't officially have anything locked in place.
We first wanted to get approval to close the street before we filled the street with things, so we're kind of holding off on council approval before we move too far forward.
Well, we're not making a decision on every Monday.
Nope,
You're out.
this is the
Just
whole,
this
right.
one. Oh, the
This
whole,
is for every Friday in the
every
summer.
all
Yes.
through. Why can't we take them on a week by week, month by month consideration?
I guess
You
you
know,
can if you want to.
This, leave it open this month, car show next month, close it. Depending on whatever is going on. I also like your idea, Mayor, of leaving the street open till 6th, between 5th and 6th.
Emma DeVos, Mitchell Main Street. A couple of issues here. The issue with opening up 6th and having that intersection open, it comes right up to the plaza. And we have to consider safety. So, we have to be able to use the plaza. And if you're talking about then having the road open that is directly next to that, I would be very concerned about children and safety. So the other thing is we have plans for a lot of big things. Like one of our things is a great outdoors. We're thinking about getting campers and four-wheelers and all that kind of stuff. We have to put those things somewhere. I think I would ask the council to consider that this is whatever relational issues there are between Main Street and Kiki are not part of this decision. What's part of this decision is a community event. It's the only one of its kind that happens in Mitchell. It is only 5 days out of the whole summer, and it brings a captive audience of up to 1,000 people to the businesses that are in that area. So I would ask you to consider that rather than any of these relational issues that seem to be going on. Thank you.
So the captive audience is not 1,000 people. I've been here 4 years, 4 summers now. I've been doing this. I know the numbers. I know the people. I know what goes on. There's always big ideas with Mitchell Main Street at the beginning of the summer, and then the events fall apart. So this is how it always goes. It's not a relational issue for me. It's not personal. It's business. It's money. And my business needs to make money, and I cannot lose any more money. So unless they're willing to pay me some type of per diem or something like that, which they're not, then I don't want that closed anymore because I'm losing money on their events. Their numbers are way down. At some point in future years, if their numbers are up, great, awesome, do it again. But right now, our numbers are way down. And I just can't lose that money anymore and have nothing in front.
Any way we can table this for a month till they come up with a solution? Maybe they can meet and,
You can do whatever you want. If you want to make a motion to table it.
I mean, you're talking May. Does Mitchell Main Street and beyond have a problem waiting a month?
Lining up vendors is part of why we wanted to be here as early as possible in March here to try to get approval, because to talk to businesses and have them have plans and put together their marketing and just reserving vans, it takes a lot of time.
How about 2 weeks? So we can come up with a solution?
If that's how the council decides to move forward, we'll work with it, certainly. Yeah, we're ambitious to move as fast as we can, but certainly we'll work with you however we can.
And to be fair, I do think that, I mean, the event was very well attended prior to COVID. I feel like I attended a lot of them, and incidentally, we would always go and eat at the Back 40 during those events. So, I'm kind of I'm struggling a little bit with this, but I do know, to be clear, whether or not Kiki lost money or not, I know that they were very well attended prior to the pandemic and all of the things that happened because of that. But I think that we have to give them a chance to recover. We have to let them have the opportunity to build it back up. And you know, I believe believe that it will be building again, because people haven't felt good about going out and being in large crowds. And I think that this is something that will take time. But before the pandemic, I couldn't have been more thrilled at the crowds that it was drawing. So I would hate to, I just feel like we need to give some support to Mitchell Main Street. And if there are times when you don't need that space, I mean, we can have that, can't we have the same footprint, but they can set it up? Or do we have to
No,
decide?
it's alcohol consumption can be
Right.
within that red line. So if you're going to change that, you need to change the alcohol consumption. Ms. Lieferman knows that. She won't be able to sell the
Outside.
beverage, the outside
Right.
beverages. They can only do what goes with her place of business if this is changed.
And now, the way I understand it is that she has the special cups that allow that, correct? And that's how that works.
Currently, based on past experience, you could stop in, and anyone could stop in, buy a drink, and take a cup and go outside and buy the beer at the Back 40, consume in the premises that are allowed. That would certainly be changed if we opened the street up and people couldn't leave the Back 40 anymore.
That would, and she's aware of that.
I don't think if we wait 2 weeks, anything's going to change anyway. I'm going to make a motion just to approve the agenda the way it is.
Okay,
I second it.
motion to approve by Mr. McCardle, second by Mrs. Charks. You second it? Okay. Further discussion?
To approve.
He made a motion to approve it as it currently
I don't think
exists.
anything will change in 2 weeks, so, I mean, Main Street is Main Street.
Well, it does give them an opportunity to at least visit a little bit more, and I kind of like John's idea. If we're going to move this through. Maybe we try the 1 month and see if they're going to have a car show. They do need the space, but if they're not going to have events, as Susan brought up, you know, I wish they could work together, and if there's a need for it, then let's try to get as many people in front of there. But to do the whole summer and all of a sudden we've just committed to it and it's not working, and then one of the two parties are disappointed. I know they need to kind of schedule out what June, July, August, and so forth, but I was hoping that maybe we can just do the 1 month, see how it goes, and then go from there. But it's going to be difficult to wait till May and then see how the event goes, and then all of a sudden you're less than 2 weeks away from hosting the other event. So I guess, Kevin, I can see where you're coming from too.
Yeah, the weather isn't the best. I mean, June and July and August are probably the best months to have it because, you know, the temperatures are going to be better and could be 30 degrees in May.
The one thing that I don't think I would support is opening up 6th Street, the intersection, because that's where there is a lot of activity that happens, the people going back and forth into the mall area of the chamber, and that corner is very active, and I think having, again, the concern with the children would probably be something that I don't think I would support. So regardless of what direction we go, I'd hate to open that up and have foot traffic compete with car traffic.
One response quick to Jeff. In regards to if we delayed, also it's a big effect on sponsorships. We have some sponsorships lined up now that if they don't know we're going to be closing down the road and having the attendance that we expect to have, that it will have a significant effect on sponsorships throughout the summer because people plan ahead for that.
The first month is the car show, the campers. I mean, that's a month that for sure you will need to have that space. The second month is the annual Habitat for Humanity garden party, and that has been held right in front of that space. Where we've had all of the things. I mean, Kiki, I'm just so struggling with this because I feel like you're in this prime position to make the most of it. And would you consider going to those planning?
I'm in a prime position, and just so I state again, I have tried to meet and be a bigger part of it. I've tried to be a part of the solution. I have begged and borrowed to be part of it.
Well,
More than just a suggestion with other members, because I am deeply and directly financially affected by First Fridays.
So-
And it is not working. During COVID, I met with you guys, and you still closed my street off with nothing there. I feel like it's just laying on, I'm just nothing. I get no response at all. I've asked the board through the new director to communicate with me, and nothing. So I came tonight, nothing. So I've said I don't want my street closed. The events are failing, the numbers are down. I understand and I appreciate, and I've always been a big supporter. I've done everything I can. I've shared their stuff on social media. I've helped out. I've even booked bands and acoustic people for them when they were in a pinch. So it isn't about my negativity or that I don't love the program, but my business cannot lose money anymore. And somebody's got to be responsible for those money losses if I continue to say, okay, the numbers are down, the numbers are down. What happens here? I mean, I can't lose any more money, folks. Like, it's got to be, and there's not 1,000 people there. The numbers are down. The food vendors hurt us. I mean, it's just a round robin.
So the promotions committee is the committee that you need to be a part of because they are the ones who plan this event. Will you consider being on that?
I've asked Nikki many times, and it was, you can come down and make suggestions. And I'm just like, this is craziness. I have a huge footprint. I should be a bigger part of this. Even down to that someone at the depot was on the Mitchell Main Street board. Awesome, they're in Mitchell Main Street. What about me? Where am I at? Why does anyone ever talk to me? I've been here 5 years. I work my butt off. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just completely ignored, and it doesn't matter. And now I'm at a point where I have 25 to 30% losses during their events. I cannot financially incur that anymore. I cannot lean on, oh, well, we think we're going to have in June. We think we're going to do this. We think we're going to do that. And then you know what happens? Nothing. So it's not a personal deal. It's just business, and I'm losing money. So either their events have to be laid out, like you said, month to month, and we know what's going to be there and there's something there, because I can't go on a wing and a prayer anymore.
Would 2 weeks, work with you if you got together with Main Street and Beyond and work something out?
I don't know. I have tried for, 5 months now? 5 months. And I've been denied a meeting with them, and I'm a member. So I don't know what else to say. I'm at the point where I'm like, just don't have it in front of me. I'm just completely opposed to it. I think when their numbers come back up, yay. But all this planning that they're doing and whatnot, and they did that last year too, and I was on board. I was. But it's not working out. The numbers are declining. And I'm losing money. So if there's some other plan they can make besides close my road, great. But I just can't lose that money anymore. I just can't.
Okay, right now we have a motion to approve as shown on the maps in a second. So,
Well, one thing, I'm not opposed to waiting 2 weeks. I think it'd be a good cause of us of take a little bit more due diligence and see what develops here over the next 2 weeks. Worst case scenario, if we would move forward, I'm sort of in what Jeff's saying, a month at a time, maybe 2 months at the most, but with a situation like this and depending on where attendance is going to go, and I agree with you, Susan, I think the attendance will be totally different than it was last year, but let us prove itself. And I understand what Main Street and Beyond has to do with trying to fill spots, maybe 3 months, 4 months down the line, what you have, but knowing that we can work with them if we need to move a different direction. Hey, we need 2 blocks. Okay, we go the other way for you for this time being. We'll get them the space. Trust me. We will find you the space if you need it. I know we will as a community, but I think we need to try to work with the business owner as they're pleading up here for a little bit of help. So either I'm on board for 2 weeks wait, or we approve like basically on a monthly thing. I'm not going to support moving forward for the whole year, even though I think this event is a great thing for our community. I really do. I just hope we can make things work out with the Back 40 and Main Street Beyond. Obviously, there's some different animosity going on amongst there behind the closed doors that we're unaware of, and I just like to do the best we can to make it work for everybody.
One comment, keep in mind that Main Street is closed for a number of other events. For example, the pre-Sturgis celebration, it's closed for that, for lots of parades, for all kinds of other events throughout the year, even Corn Palace Week. And we may be setting a precedent for how this happens if it's about one business. One of the benefits of being near the Corn Palace is you benefit from tourist traffic, right? That you have more people in your neighborhood stopping in on a regular basis because they're in the neighborhood to see the Corn Palace or go do the touristy visits to the Corn Palace. If we start shifting that away, right, you get the benefit of being here, but you also don't get the negatives of being here, which does include some of these kinds of events, making your business a little less convenient.
I agree. I'm actually shocked that Kiki's asking for this, and I support the Back 40, and I'm going to keep on patronizing it. We used to have Mr. Bates come down here and chastise us that we have an event down here and not in front of his business. And he chastised us when we took the Corn Palace Week and moved it away from his business. I am totally blasted by the fact that Kiki, a bar person, a restaurant opener, and Kiki, I always do your business, but I can't believe that somebody's asking not to have people in front of me. So it is definitely making me beside myself. The fact is, all I'm thinking, let's take a couple weeks, let's settle in a little bit and make a better decision on it than trying to hastily make a decision right now tonight that we just got blindsided by in my mind. That's all I'm asking, just so we have a chance to make a little better decision. I don't think 2 weeks is going to hurt anybody by us trying to make the best decision for our community.
I also met with the Corn Palace board because during the Corn Palace Festival, they closed my street and didn't put anything in front of it. It was blank, not one vendor, nothing. So I just want to let you know that I'm pleading with the council that I need to have a voice here. And I've been really cool, and I've tried to work with everyone, and I've been a supporter of everything, but I just can't do it anymore. I feel like no one's listening to me, Corn Palace board included. Like, they just didn't care enough to do anything. So I need to have a voice somewhere in this and in participation and being directly involved, and I'm not. And I've met with all these boards, and nothing seems to happen. And that's why I'm here today. I've tried to work with them, and they don't want to do it. I don't know what else to say. I have tried. I've done my due diligence.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
So should we amend this? Do you want to amend the motion, or do you want to, are you thinking you want to stay the course?
What's the rest of the council think? I mean, I don't see what 2 weeks is
2
gonna do,
weeks.
but
I would prefer
Main
to
Street
have
isn't
them
changing in
visit,
2 weeks.
To have them maybe get together and see if they can come to some resolution, and it may not. It might be just a standstill, and then we've got to make a decision. I do want to comment that I sit on the Corn Palace board, and remember when Kiki came in and visited with us. And I thought we had a great meeting that day. You brought up some good points, and we listened, and having nothing in front of your place was not the right thing to do, and we agreed with that. So it's either going to have something in front, or we're going to have it open. And that was my recollection. I guess maybe you had a different one, but I do think that we do have to make for sure we're listening to some business owners, and you may agree with them or you may not, but at least there's an opportunity for them to come in and voice their opinion.
If this were approved, Mr. Johnson, could it be amended to close it in front of the scoreboard only in the future?
So the way it's sitting right now, you either need to vote on the motion or you need to make a motion to amend the current motion.
Right.
Or
Whatever you want that to be, whether
Or you
it's
could
changing
withdraw
it
the
or
motion.
whether it's
They could
tabling it.
withdraw the motion, couldn't they, and start back to table it?
Yeah, or you can just make a motion to amend it to table it for 2 weeks.
Okay.
okay, well, if that's what you guys want. Well, I don't see what 2 weeks is gonna do, but if we want to amend it for 2 weeks, we can do that.
I honestly don't think it's going to change anything
I don't
either,
think
but
so
at
either,
least,
but-
at least it gives them an opportunity to visit amongst them. I did talk to Ashley today, and as she said, she did reach out to Kiki and ask if they could meet, and obviously what's happened in the past, we have no control over that, but at least it gives them an opportunity if they so choose.
We can make an amendment to amend my motion for 2 weeks then.
To table it for 2 weeks?
For 2 weeks.
Okay, we have an amended
I'll second that.
motion to table for 2 weeks and a second by Mrs. Charts, right?
So
Okay.
That's the motion to amend, and then you'll do another motion to approve the tabling. So you're voting right now to change the motion, and
Okay.
then after that, you'll
We'll
vote.
vote on
You
the
need a
motion.
new motion
Right,
to approve
okay.
the tabling.
So all those in favor of amending the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Motion is
Do we
tabling.
need
We're tabling it.
You need a new motion. to
Oh, I'm
table
sorry.
it now.
Okay, my mistake.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Savers.
You get confused.
Further discussion? Anything else you want to say, quick?
I'm open to meeting
Okay.
with them, but like I said, I need that opportunity to happen.
You got 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
to
That's
get it done.
what
Yeah, so
I
it's
thought.
just a,
So we needed to
Right.
vote on the motion as a,
right.
isn't this
I
Robert
got an
Rules
extra
of Order
step in
great?
there.
I don't want to talk about it.
So are we, the last motion, is that out of this then?
The current motion is the table.
I wasn't confused, but now I am, so.
There was a motion on the floor to approve the application and a second, and then there was a motion to amend
Amend it.
the original motion to table it for 2 weeks with a
Right.
second. You voted on the amendment, which was approved.
Now we
So
have,
now you're going to vote on the motion as amended,
Right.
to table it till the next meeting.
that's what I thought. Okay, so I was right the first time. Okay, so everybody got that? Clear as mud?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of city council on an item that is not on the agenda excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Does anybody wish to address council? Come on up.
Council members, I'm Don Hassan. I live at 3 West Harmon Drive. And I've asked street employees when they come by, whose ditch is it on West Harmon Drive that borders Music's county property. The city mows a little bit of it, but there's been a down tree in that ditch for a year and a half now. The county doesn't do anything about it, neither is the city. I think it should be cleaned up. Anybody following me?
3 West Harmon Drive?
West Harmon Drive, it's right down the intersection of Ullman and West Harmon and South Harmon. It's on the south side of the street. The music's property is on the fence.
It's on the west side of the road, correct? Of Ullman?
I would say it's on the south side of West Harmon.
Harmon or Ullman?
Right across the street from Public Access 13.
Yeah. Right to the south of that.
Right.
Okay, yeah, right. Where Dolman dead ends into the lake.
Right, right.
Right.
So I don't know if that ditch belongs to the city or the county. It's the south side of the street.
Was it just the tree right in the corner or what?
It's a little bit west of the intersection.
Can you zoom out a little bit?
That helps.
A little more. Right there's the intersection, and the city goes right down the middle of Ullman there.
Right. Is that little black square the public access?
Yeah, that's the address.
That's the act.
All right.
Well, no, the access is.
Right there.
This is the access.
Right, right across the.
Let's go down the road.
And right across the street from the access, is that ditch the city or the county?
Right across from the blue.
Right there.
Right there.
We'll have to look into that.
The city has mowed the edge of it every year. But all I'm asking is if this tree belongs to the city, then,
What's it tipped over?
yeah, it was pushed down a couple of years ago, blew over.
I bet somebody will drive by there and take it for wood if they want it.
Yeah, it's a big, nice ash tree. It burns well, they tell me. I just want, so you just.
Okay.
Come on up, Mr. Powell.
Nathan Powell, Parks and Recreation Director. We can go look at the boulevard tree and, we can go look at the boulevard tree for him. We got you down. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
there you go. Thank you. Okay, anybody else wish to address council? Okay. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for the City Council recess, sit as Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action for Groenwood Construction, 3209 Canal Circle. Groenwood Construction has applied for backyard variance of 32 feet versus 35 feet, and a front yard 25 feet versus 35 feet as required by the property at 3209 Canal Circle, legally described as Lot 55, the island's first edition, City of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota, for the purpose of constructing a single-family house. Property is zoned urban development. Mr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. You probably noticed in the planning commission minutes that were in your packet that this variance was unanimously recommended 7-0. A couple things that it probably bring to your attention is there was a discussion on the drawing that you saw with there. If you take the let me see if I can find, it would say Groenwood plans, I believe. It's this one, two, third one down. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, but you guys can look at it. That's the site plan. No, next one. Go to the top there. There you go. You can kind of see it there. I'll just look over yours. You could see we had a little bit of a discussion where the backyard actually is, and then you probably see, and if you diagonal it out, drawing a line between the triangle that you see where this says 32 and 52, you draw that out, that's there was a little bit of a discussion of whether that's actually part of the backyard or not. I guess arguably you could say that's the side yard because there would be with that. So with that being said, in the urban development district, which we'll probably discuss in a little while, is the setbacks are 35 front, 35 back, 8 on the side, which they are on that side. And so that's what's before you. And you probably recall this was just platted, a couple months ago, I believe. And so if you saw the aerial, you can kind of see how it all fits in there. Aerial would be the very last one on that list. So, and I don't know if anybody's here regarding that one or not. Yeah, there you kind of see the plat where the X is. You see where the home is located, and you can kind of see that there is some unplatted property on both sides of it there, except there is one house that's there on there. So
Neil?
just to get your perspective right. So
Do you have a clue why they're asking for a variance for that lot versus all the empty lots that they would not need a variance on?
well, they just when they drew it, they probably that's what they're
Why
going
they
ahead and
draw it
busted.
on that lot when there are all kinds of empty lots?
That's a lot the owner decided to purchase for it, is what it amounts to. I don't know if there was some deal struck or what, but.
Right. And there, just so that you know that there are various covenants attached to this, what they do have square footage requirements, and I understand, but there's probably other people here can address the covenants that are required there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Again, the Planning Commission did recommend approval, 7-0.
And
There
there's a
may be
neighbor
some-
on the X, what's on the, there's a neighbor there already, right?
X is the
building.
lot.
That's where they're building.
Who's the other one to the, what would be to the east or what?
I don't know the name. Off the-
Kind of southeast.
Yeah, right there.
Is,
I think that's Micah, Fulmers,
that one is? I have no idea.
I think so.
Again, there may be some others who can want to speak to it here.
Neil, there was one letter that was a part of our packet. As far as the neighbor is concerned, was that presented to the Planning Commission, that letter?
Yeah, everything that's here
Was
in the planning.
included? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't receive anything different than what.
It does
There.
say spec home, but it's really not a spec home. It's somebody who's bought the lot and wants to build the house there. Is that right?
That's correct. This is Brian Helison. I represent the buyer of that lot, not the applicant for this variance. But they are buying the lot where the house will be built, and the only reason I'm here is because I would like the decision to be made on the variance earlier than the rezoning issue. If the property was rezoned, we wouldn't need this variance, but that could happen a month from now, or 2 months from now, or never. So from my standpoint, my buyer's standpoint, they want to move into this house as soon as humanly possible, and they can start building if you guys grant the variance.
So if this was no longer urban development, then we wouldn't need the variance?
That's my
Well, it would
understanding.
depend on what you rezone or what it's rezoned at. If it were rezoned to RL or R1, correct. The variance wouldn't be applicable.
That wouldn't be down for a month down the road.
Right.
Because it's only first reading.
Correct. You would have first and second reading and adoption, so it would take at least 4 weeks to get through it, plus you got to advertise it. So they wanted to get going on it, so the variance was the fastest way for them to be able to move on the home.
Well, I'm looking at this kind of big picture, and I am going to move approval of the variance.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Charks,
I'll second that.
second by Mr.
I
Saber.
do have a question, though, if representing the buyer. If they knew, as John was pointing out, the fact that this is the lot that we have in place, and then this is the type of house that would fit on the lot, why was the decision made then to actually come with the variances as it sits right now?
As the buyer of the lot and the home, that was after the fact of applying for the variance. Is that what you're asking?
Right, and obviously, the buyer had a house in mind that they were putting onto the lot, and now, given the fact under the current rules, it does not fit, so you have to come for a variance.
my understanding of the timeline was that, well, Macheski owned the lot, Gruneweg was purchasing the lot, my buyer is purchasing the lot with the home built from Gruneweg. So that home that Gruneweg was going to construct on that lot was thought about prior to my buyers wanting to buy it.
So they didn't go up to the, John Hager, Neil Putman and ask them before, what can we actually build on it? They just buy a lot and just build whatever you want, then ask for a handout from the council or what?
I have no idea what they discussed, but
It sounds like to me it is.
my buyers were presented a lot with a home on it
I understand.
with the variance,
You're
assuming
a
to
seller.
be,
That's what you make your commission on, I understand.
yeah, I can't speak for Macheski or Gruneweg how that
Sure.
happened.
Neil, they do have a master plan for that interior area, right?
You are correct, yes, they
What,
do have them
what do
laid
the
out.
lots look like? Are they,
Uh,
what you're seeing are not the lots that
Correct.
have been platted in there, because they haven't been brought forth for their final platting. So they may not be any larger than the lot that you're being asked to give a variance on.
Right.
You know, what you're seeing are lots that have been platted. The
Correct.
one we're speaking of here came
About
a month ago as to be approved, and then somebody decided to put a house on it that they needed a variance on. You may very well end up with every one of those lots coming back and asking for a variance as it sits today. Just to make you aware of that.
I will say in this area though, he has been typically following the master plan that he has submitted. I mean, it's always, once you survey it, it might be off a foot or two, but in this one, he has been pretty much following it, so. But the mayor is absolutely correct. The red marks indicate what is platted.
And these were platted in, I think, early 2000s.
Correct. Actually,
prior to when we redid our zoning code as well.
right.
So we made some modifications to our zoning code since this occurred that make it more appealable for him to make this an R1 or an RL.
The one thing I don't want to jump too far over to the rezoning issue, but there is a copy of the master plan in that agenda item.
On the zoning?
So, yeah. So if you saw that with the circles on there, so that if you wanted to see the master plan, jump back down to the rezoning one, and you'll see the master plan that's been presented, the most recent one. So it would be, in the ordinance one.
If
Yeah,
you can
there's-
find it, it's right there. Oh, she's got it right here.
Yes. I'll explain the circles when we get to that.
So there's what the lots will look like. They're not as like you. It looked like there were a couple big lots and a couple small lots. It's all the smaller stuff.
So, Mr. Mayor, you've sat on the planning commission for years and years. I would be interested in, if you want to give it to us, your personal feeling on.
Well, you know, I was the one that hated variances all the time. What we're seeing though is houses were going smaller and now they've reversed and started getting bigger. I think that's mainly due to COVID because people now want home offices and whatnot. So if they get stranded at home to work, they have a place. I think you will see a lot of variances coming in for this area, just because of what's there. Right now, Mr. Macheski put his covenants and setbacks based on our old code, not our current code. So I see why they want to have a variance for it. I guess it's up to you guys whether or not you want to approve that. I'm more comfortable approving this one than I would have been approving the ones I've always rejected, so.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, Kyle Croce, Public Works Director, this is not uncommon to see that in a planning site. There is an irregular tract of land, and they're trying to fit houses in there. Like the mayor said, it's a bigger house on a smaller lot, but overall, that's kind of an irregular shape in the middle.
And that is true. Given the shape of the roads, you've got to work with some odd-shaped lots to make it all work, so. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay. Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to tell with your masks on.
That was me.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Hearing in action for Russell and Teresa Quist across from 5 West Harmon Drive, conditional use permit. A conditional use permit for Russell and Teresa Quist have applied for a conditional use permit to construct an accessory building not located adjacent to a principal building, located across from the street from 5 West Harmon Drive, legally described as west half of Lot 1. Nils Johnson, second edition. Nils Jensen, second edition. Nils Jensen subdivision. Lake Development Plan, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. The property is zoned RL. Mr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mayor. These two, the 10 and 11 are somewhat related, but they're two separate actions, but they kind of involve, like I said, as the same property. Actually, coincidentally, it's just where you were looking at just a minute ago in that area. So, yeah. So this is actually right across the street from Mr. and Mrs. Quist, who live at 5 West Harmon. And you probably saw there, they because this is in the RL district, which we've come up before, any building that is not contiguous requires a conditional use permit. And so that's what's before you. It would be on the south side, second lot in. Yeah, right where you see the X. I don't know, your yellow X doesn't show
right
very
there.
well, but that's where it is.
And
So go ahead.
in this area, there are quite a few of those where
Correct.
there are non-contiguous.
Right. You've approved one. Well, actually, you probably approved all the ones that are already there.
All 3 of the ones you see to the west.
Yeah,
This
right.
lot.
So this is kind of fitting in the same thing. But there's two different actions. One is, the variance is because the lot is less than 7,500. He meets all the other setbacks and everything in the size.
Let's not cloud the issue. We have one item
Okay,
before
I'm
us.
sorry.
Now we're starting to sound like planning and zoning
No,
commission. We don't
sorry.
want to go there. So this is a conditional use for an accessory building.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this one? Come on up, sir.
Yeah, once again, I'm Don Hassan. I'm a neighbor of Mr. Quist. I have no objection to this building that he's building. In fact, it's, from the plans I've seen, it's a very nice-looking building. What I would like to see is it lines up with Porter's building, Helloyd's building, and Jackie Morrison's building. I went out with the tape measure 2 days ago. Dale Porter's building is 8 foot from Music's fence line. Helloyd's is 5 foot from the fence line. Jackie Morrison's is about 7. Russ tells me he's supposed to be 30 foot from the fence line. I think it would look nice if all those buildings there all lined up in a row, rather than this one sticking out 30 feet from the Music's pasture fence. That's my question there, Hope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who determined that it needed to be 30?
It's actually 25, but
There's
it could be
setbacks.
whatever. There could be easements and stuff too back there.
You're going to discuss that in the next one.
Yeah.
So be patient. Okay? Anybody else wish to address it? All those in favor of the conditional use signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now you'll get into the setbacks.
Okay.
Hearing in action for Russell and Teresa Quist across from 5 West Harmon Drive, a variance. Russell and Teresa Quist have applied for non-conforming lot size variance of 7,149 square feet versus 7,500 square feet to construct an accessory building not located adjacent to a principal building located across the street from 5 West Harmon Drive, legally described as the west half of Lot 1, Nils Jensen, second edition, Nils Jensen subdivision, Lake Development Plan, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned RL Lake District, Residential Lake District.
Yes.
Mr. Putnam.
Yes, again, this was presented to the Planning Commission, did recommend approval, 7-0. Again, it's just, this one's basically because once he subdivided the lot, and then once construction begins on the lot, then that's what triggers the variance. So that's why it's less than 7,500. And okay, there you go. So
Yeah.
so Yeah, really, he can be 35 feet, or 25, excuse me, in the back. So, but that would be the minimum. But
He's
six-
not asking for a setback.
No, because he meets everything there.
And if they do ask for a setback, they'd have to go back to the planning commission.
Correct. Here, I'll let Russ.
Originally, I drew it up with 10.
State your name because you're online and everywhere else and they got to know who you are.
Russ Quist,
Thank you.
and I live right across from it, and I did lay it out originally 10 feet off the back fence line. And then I started reading your regulations and I saw that RL was a lot deeper, so I went to your standards because they've changed since Troy Elliott built his and Porter built his. So.
Yes, they were built in the early 2000s or 90s, I believe.
Yeah,
And
I'm fine
changed.
with it, moving it back. I know when I laid it out too, I thought, oh, it's gonna look funny, but you come around the corner and see mine and nobody else's. And it doesn't matter to me where I put it and all that.
Well, it matters in that you may have to have a variance to move it
To
back,
do that, okay.
right, Mr. Putnam?
No,
He can move it back without any issue?
He can move back 5 feet.
Right, but to line it up with the 5 feet, that creates an issue with variances, correct? Okay. So really what the variance here right now is it's supposed to be a 7,500 square foot lot, and it was subdivided so that it's 7,100 and some change. But he meets all the setbacks required by the city planning and zoning code.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody out in the audience want to address it? Mr. Hassan, did you want to say anything else? Do you understand what we're saying about the distances?
That's why I'm coming up here.
Okay.
Let's run it by me again. Because
For him to move it back to line it up requires him to go for a variance for a backyard setback.
Right.
Which is a whole nother ballgame. So he has to meet what the city has set up for their setbacks, which is 20 feet, 25 feet for a backyard. So he has to, by our planning and zoning code, be 25 feet from that backyard property line.
Okay. So I own the next lot east of him.
You own the triangle there?
Yes.
Okay,
So what he would apply to him would apply to me also.
correct.
So on that pie-shaped lot, the
So,
way it is, on the setback, 25 front, 25 back, I wouldn't have much.
you're gonna probably need a variance to build anything
Yeah.
on yours,
Okay,
all right?
thank you.
But don't thank me yet, sir. Okay. Anybody else wish to talk on this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 3/15/2021. David Baker has applied for a side yard on a corner variance of 8 feet versus 15 feet is required. A backyard variance 24 feet versus 25 feet is required. And a height variance of an attached accessory building 25 feet versus 22 feet is required for the construction of attached garage at 400 West 14th, legally described as Lot 12, Block 12, Capital Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R4, high-density residential. Mr. Putnam, you need to speak this? Okay.
Move to set the date.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Charks, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 3/15/2021. MPR Real Estate Holdings LLC Pizza Ranch has applied for a parking space variance, 73 spaces versus 78 spaces is required at the property located at 502 East Norway Avenue, legally described as Lot S11, replat of Lot S, Northwest Quarter, Section 27, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Owner wishes to construct an addition. Said real property is owned HB Highway Business.
Who to set the date?
Second.
Mr. Barrington, was that you?
Yep.
Followed by Mr. Rice for a second. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene the city council, entertain a motion for board adjustment to adjourn city council to reconvene in regular session.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve quarterly funding request from Mitchell Area Development Corporation in the amount of $41,750. Who wants to speak to that?
Well, I'll start on that, and then Jason will talk, but I'm the one that brought this to the council during budget hearings for two reasons at the time. One, we were in the middle of COVID shutdowns and close downs. We didn't know how much money we were going to have. We didn't know whether first and second penny sales tax would meet budget. We ended up meeting budget. We were down $50,000, but we did meet our budget. And the transition across the street in August had just happened. We did not know the plan of the executive committee from MADC or the chamber of what they were going to do, how they were going to move forward, what their plans were for a replacement, etc. At this time, I've taken part in their plans. They're actively working at hiring a replacement. They've hired a consulting firm. We did interviews with people last week. We've had upward of 30 people apply. Was reduced down to a level that the interview committee then chose a subset of, and we did those interviews last week. And based on that, that was the reasoning for holding the money at that time, and based on meeting the budget and knowing what their plan is and knowing they want to move forward with that, I will recommend approval of the quarterly disbursements.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Mr. Stabner, go ahead.
No, I've got nothing.
That's a good idea when you get that.
Steve covered it all, so we're moving forward. We'll have it resolved, completed shortly.
Questions of Mr. Stabner?
I don't have a question, but I'll just make a quick comment that I'm the liaison to the Mitchell Area Development Corp. And over the years, we've always had a great relationship, and I got confidence with visiting with Steve that they're going to be able, and also Jason, that it sounds like we've got some great candidates that came through, and of the four they got, they should be able to select somebody that is really going to be able to continue our cooperation and partnership. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I'm the liaison to the chamber, and that's why I'm on that interview committee.
Okay. Further discussion? Anybody else wish to address this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve 2021 contingency funds for HVAC replacement at the Deerland Estates. Okay. Let me start this off by saying Deerland Estates is the Kelly House out west, okay? So everybody understands that. One of the things that occurred during our recent cold streak was we had domestic water pipe freeze and break. There was minimal damage done to the house. There has been rumors out there that it's severe damage and whatnot. Basically what happened is the pipe broke, it was next to a floor drain, and it ran right into the waste system. So we didn't have an issue. We did have to get a contractor out there to help vacuum it up, and Mr. Roth, you can correct me if I'm stepping out of bounds here, but come out and help vacuum up the water that was on the floor. Yep. We did have to replace 2 ceiling tiles. We did have to cut into the shower wall and remove 2 or 3 ceramic tiles in order to get to that pipe. We fixed the pipe, fixed the wall. I think Mr. Roth did the wall work. Did you not? Or
No, we bought a contractor in to fix the tile on the
So then we had a ceramic tile setter come in and do a professional job on that, so you really can't tell anything happened to the house at this point. Unfortunately, it did freeze. One of the things that we were sitting on is the temperature control system is becoming outdated and needs to be upgraded. We were sitting on that, keeping the house at a lower temperature to wait and see how it sold and whatnot. We've decided it may be in our best interest to go ahead and get that done so we don't have an issue like this again should we get another cold streak. So that is why this is coming forward. Mr. Roth, you can add anything you want to that.
No, Mayor said it pretty good. So I guess we're just looking to get the new controllers, the software, so there's 14 zones in the house, so they all talk to the main controller, and the main computer can adjust the heat, work the thermostats, all that stuff is what we're looking for.
Tessiers installed the original control system. Tessiers would do this work. Okay.
And
We have the in-floor heat going right now. That's what we're maintaining heat with right now.
Yeah, they're doing it manually.
But this controller runs that too, but we got it working.
And the contingency money will come out of the amount we designated, but if if Lake or Public Works doesn't meet theirs,
No, it'll have to
It'll have
actually
to-
come out of contingency because
Okay.
you've already obligated all of the money that you get from POET, and it's out of the water fund, which is a utility account.
okay.
So it's really going to show up in a transfers from general to water
So,
to make up that difference.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And do we have access remotely to this then, or do you
You
have
will.
to be on site?
You should be able to do it remotely once this is upgraded.
Okay.
Currently, they're not talking to each other, which is what you need to upgrade. Go ahead, Mr. Doshi.
Mayor, how old is the Kelly house?
18 years? 20 years? Almost, okay. Further questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Award recycled asphalt concrete crushing bid, project 2021-9, Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so the bids were opened at 1:30 on February 3rd. In the council chambers, we received 5 bids, and the low bidder was Dakota Constructors for $136,500. This is the same contractor that we used last year as well, and staff recommends awarding the bid to Dakota Constructors for a total of $136,500. We have estimated in the amount budgeted for this fiscal year, the $105,000 for 2021, the $15,000 for 2021 out of gravel-based street. The other one is gravel-based street and sidewalk, and then we will come to the council with a supplemental appropriation for street and sidewalk, which from the overlay last year, which there was $166,000 left over, so we'll make up the difference through that one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion?
Got one, and it doesn't have to do with whether it's this bid or anything, but when I drove by West 8, had to be last week, they were doing some crushing and the dust and stuff was blowing terribly across, almost creating zero visibility on the bypass by the water tower. Is there possibility to, and it kind of was the worst case scenario, they were at the very top of the peak and the wind was blowing 35 miles an hour from the northwest. But visibility was almost zero on top of the bridge by the water tower when that was going on and that dust was blowing across.
We'll address that with the contractor.
If the pile would have been 10 feet lower, nothing would have happened, that type of stuff, and it was only because I think they were at the very top of the peak, and it must have been fairly small granules that they were doing at that time.
Right, so we will address that with the contractor.
So we go through a lot of this product, don't we, Kyle? I mean, those mounds that you have out there are huge.
We do. We go through that, and we utilize as much as we can for the projects, the street projects that we have. We use a lot of that for Sanborn, and then we use the material that was taken up, and then we crushed it and reused it for sub-basin base material, and we'll be using a lot of that for the East Central Phase 2 project.
So where do we get the concrete and the asphalt? Is it all from our projects that we pull up, or?
There's a lot from our projects that we pull up. If we have other...
So we recycle just about everything that we can?
Yes, we try and do that as much as we can. And we do have a stockpile at the landfill as well for concrete that we crush there as well.
Okay. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2021-12 with CJM Consulting for perpetual easement in conjunction with Daily Lift Station Improvements, Project 2020-12. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is for the Daily Drive Lift Station project. And so if you see the last page that we've included, you can see where SPN has provided the surveying for both the permanent utility easement and the temporary construction easement. And we've talked with the owner. They're obviously in favor of this agreement as well, so we recommend City Council approval.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2021-11, a plat of Track 1 of Back Ash Addition in the southwest quarter of Section 24, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davidson County, South Dakota. Mr. Putnam.
Mayor and council members, you probably noticed this plat was presented to the Planning Commission at their last regular meeting, and they did recommend approval of this at 7-0. This is just outside the city limits, so that the county has to review this as well. And my understanding is the County Planning Commission will hear this tomorrow, and then the County Commission will hear it the very next week. If you saw the aerial, it's just directly east of the Wild Oak. Here you can kind of see where I've identified it with the Track 1. Basically kind of outlines around the pond, if you will. And it's just a little under 3 acres there. So, in my understanding, he'll access it off of that road that's already there, not off of the highway. So, do you have any?
So, they're building something there?
Yes, my understanding, we're building a residence. And
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Mr. Backlund, did you want to say anything? Okay, any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2021-12, of plot of lot 8, Block 7, of the Woods First Edition, a subdivision of the east half of the southwest quarter of Section 23, Township 103 North, Range 60 West, of the 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Putnam.
again, thank you, Mayor. This plat was presented to the council, or the Planning Commission at their last regular meeting and did recommend approval, 7-0. As you can see there, it pretty much follows the master plan.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance 020-2101, rezoning of certain lots platted and unplatted in the Island First Edition, City of Mitchell, from urban development to R1 single-family residential district. Now, this is the one that the Planning and Zoning Commission did come back and feel was spot zoning. However, I want to point out to you that if this is spot zoning, you have spot zoning in the next item you're going to address as well. I really think the next item is a very good use of the property, but if you're going to consider this spot zoning, in my eyes, you have to consider the next one, spot zoning. Mr. Putnam.
Okay. Yes, as you probably noticed in the Planning Commission minutes, they did hold a hearing on this rezoning request and did recommend that it not be approved. Just to give you a little bit of background here, again, you have the master plan that's drawn up there. The lots that are circled are the ones that Mr. Macheski, as well as 3 or 4 other owners, you probably noticed in the staff report the names there, request to be rezoned. These are lots that do not have a building on them at this present time. Some of them are platted and some are not. So that's just the master plan. If you saw back at the aerial, you remember the one that's there, which ones are platted or not. So what he's requesting is just those ones that are part of that have made a petition for rezoning, and the ones that are not affected would be the ones that already have a house on them. There is a couple lots along the north part of that maybe in between some houses there and so forth. Those are not part of it, but majority of these are, I mean, all of the ones that are requested do not have a house on them. So that's a little bit with what he's requesting there. The R1, just so that you know, with the this is kind of, from what I understand, is the rationale was is to try to change the setback. Because in urban development, which we just had talked about, urban development district requires that there's a 35-foot front yard setback, 35-foot backyard setback, side yard side yard is 8 foot, and 20 foot on a corner. Really, the only change that, from a setback perspective, that it changes is in the R1 goes 25, 25, 3 on the sides, and 20 on a corner. So it's pretty much the main is the front and the back and the side. So that's one thing to just to kind of what he's proposing there. And then what I was told is that the covenants somewhat mirror our R1 district, is what I understood. However, he does have covenants in place that are fairly strict, that remain in place. They do not change based on this. What you're looking at, the circled numbers on the lots, are the lots that do not have the homes on them currently. Correct. Well, there's a couple on the north side there. There's a handful that have some vacant lots that are sandwiched in between some there. But there's a couple of those. But right, the mayor is correct. The ones that are circled are part of this application. So the rest of them are not. And that's why you probably read in there there's a big master legal. That's the property that is not platted yet. So there's like 5 or 6 lots that are platted, and the rest of it is the unplatted part. That is part of the application.
So to clarify, we would only be changing the zoning on the lots that have not been sold?
No, the ones that are circled.
The ones that are circled, that don't have a house on it, sorry.
Correct. Right. Some of them are privately owned, some already, but they just have not had a house on them yet.
I guess my question is, why would we not change the zoning on
Because
all
you have to have those people sign off on it.
Correct.
And Mr. Macheski will go to them when he comes back, and maybe Chuck Jr. wants,
I'll let them.
he intends to go to the people who have houses on there and talk to them about rezoning the whole area to R1 when he gets back from wherever he is.
No. It's somewhere different. Yeah, this doesn't change the existing homes. Those are built in a handful of real large lots that were sold previously, and they wouldn't have an issue at urban development. This is really about building bigger homes, higher value, like we have in all of our R1 zoned neighborhoods. In hindsight, I wish this was zoned that 20 years ago, but for whatever reason, it wasn't in the city, and it got labeled with what we would now determine as the albatross of zoning urban development.
Keep in mind that this was zoned prior to the city redoing their zoning code as well. So had it been done after we redid our zoning code, he may have chosen to go with the better setbacks that he currently has.
I would be interested to hear what the owners that are living there now think of the process. I mean, they say that when Chuck gets back, he's going to talk to the neighbors and try to persuade them to agree that this should be rezoned. But if, we've already got half or 1 out of 2 respondents saying they're not in favor of it, the planning commission is not in favor of it unanimously, there's got to be some reasons, I think.
Planning and zoning didn't want it because they felt it was spot zoning. However, they went ahead and recommended approval of the very next item, which follows the exact same parameters. So it's your guys' decision ultimately, but I want to make sure you're aware of that. If you don't
Well,
like
are
this
we-
for spot
are we-
zoning, you can't.
We're
like
not going to address both of these at once, are we?
No.
I see.
I don't think we're very concerned, if it were to go forward with spot zoning, I don't think we're very concerned with existing homes, and having conversations with them unless they want to. Their homes are built, so unless their home burns down, I don't know that it's much of an issue like John had mentioned. Again, it's about allowing higher value homes like we wish we could have 20 years ago.
Chuck, I'm just curious, R1, is there a reason why you went that direction versus RL being so close to the lake or in the area? Is there more R1 than
Not all of those lots are on the lake.
Right, but not all RL is on the lake either.
Right. This R1 really
I don't know.
mirrors RL that's not on the lake, or vice versa. RL not on the lake mirrors our R1 zoning.
I guess we were looking at some of the better neighborhoods in town being zoned R1, and so that's maybe the direction that conversation went, but I wasn't part of that.
And I think if you were to zone it RL, you'd have the same setbacks in this area as
wouldn't
our
change.
R1 has, so.
It would, RL, I think, determines which is the front of the house. So if you live on the lake, it's maybe different than if you live on an avenue or street.
Yes, it is. Your
Marty,
front
you
yard's considered lakeside if you're on the
We're all a
water.
little backwards, right, Marty? Question, and you talked about since the zoning changed. I know I was on the council in 12 and 13 when that was the last zoning change. Did it change between 2002 and 2012, 13?
No, it did not. The last zoning change, there were amendments made to it.
When was the zoning change prior to 2/12, 13?
Oh, geez. It was before I got on the planning and zoning in the 90s, so it might have been 1987 is the number that comes to mind.
Okay.
And part of the reason that change was made in whatever 2012 or whatever it was is because we were seeing a great deal of variances
Right.
come before the planning and zoning
And we talked
commission.
about side yard setbacks
Yeah.
and front and back setbacks, et
Correct.
cetera.
And we wanted.
Corner lot triangles
Yep.
and all the concern and,
We were trying to stop the variances from coming
Right.
in. Obviously, that didn't work, as you can see, but,
okay.
yes.
I'm just
That
trying
was,
to understand the timeline of
it was really to start over with the planning
2002
and
urban
zoning,
development
yes.
here to how it got to,
And this was done
this
about 10
point.
years before that was.
This is just on first reading anyway, so there'll be
It
a
is.
second. So move to approve the first reading.
Okay, motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Sabers for first reading. Further discussion? Anybody else in the audience want to address this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance 020-2102, rezoning of lots 9, 10, and east half lots 11 and 12, block 12, Van Epps, first edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, from R3 medium residential district to HB highway business district. Mr. Putnam.
Okay, again, the planning commission did hold a hearing on this for ordinance change. They did recommend approval on this one, 6-0. We did have one abstention. Just as a kind of refresh your memory, can you pull the aerial, please? Thank you. You may recall that building, the white building where it says rezone there. You may recall, I don't know, year and a half ago, the party that came in here requested a conditional use permit for an indoor recreational, and obviously the council granted it at that particular time. So since that time, obviously, I'll let the applicants are here to explain what their project is. So I just wanted to kind of give you the bearings. What they're proposing is to add on an addition towards the south for a couple lots to the south, and then make that as a commercial use. Obviously, because if you did a conditional use, it would be very restrictive. You'd only be for that particular use. So just to get your bearings straight, where this is, there's apartments on to the one side, and then all the way to the end of the block. If anybody's been out there, you probably noticed a brown storage unit facility. That's zoned Highway Business District. And then even further south there, you've got the former GT body, which is Highway Business as well. So the property that they are rezoning, now they do not own the two houses On the west there, where those two red dots are, that is not part of the rezoning. It is just the half of the block, or you'd say the two lots to the south where it says rezoning. So with that, again, Planning Commission did recommend approval at 6-0. The owners are here. If you have particular questions of them, you should have some background information in there too, with some photographs and so forth. So I'll try to answer any questions you have, or if the owners are here.
What's the plan, and for the owners, the plan to address the parking potential issues?
I'm Christy Duba, and I'm the owner of Core Athletics. So with the addition on the west side, that will all be parking lot, so that will give us 24 parking spots.
Okay. So the building will go to the south, and then to the west of that building, there will be parking?
Yes,
Parking
yeah,
is
'cause
the
it'll stay the
idea.
60-foot wide and go all the way back, and so everything to the west, then we want to make parking lots.
So in essence, the building you have there will just basically get extended about the same size all the way to the south.
Yes,
And highway business allows you to go right to the property line.
yes.
So there you go.
And then you'll have an entrance on the, some new entrance or something
So,
at
yeah,
the
our
park,
main
where the parking is?
entrance
Right
will be-
now is on,
Yes,
Douglas,
on Douglas
but-
Street, and now we'll be on the west side, which I believe is Rowley Street, right?
okay.
And this is a good use for this area,
I'll
in my
approve
opinion.
first reading.
Motion by Mr. McCardle. By Mrs. Charks.
I was gonna ask Christie if she wanted some free advertising and let us know what she does and what are you gonna put in the building?
All right. It's just gonna be gymnastics. Well,
It's
okay,
not
Just gymnastics?
Oh, and cheer. We have a cheer team that rents from us, and then we do offer a boys ninja class also with it. So,
Judging the way your little guy took to wrestling over the weekend, you better get some
and
wrestling
it might
mats
be
in there.
future wrestling training too.
Okay.
He did enjoy it.
Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're adjourned.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I heard it. You voted against it? I voted against it, here's why. Someone buys a lot, you put a house on it, you should know what you're supposed to